I got out to Hersheypark for the very first time, and I was absolutely blown away. I will say right now, inside the park, I had a better experience at Hersheypark than Cedar Point. Well, I'm gonna explain that. Let's talk about Hershey's. So I thought Hershey had a pretty underrated lineup of coasters with a very strong top 4. Storm Runner is my favorite coaster in the park by a comfortable margin. Whoa, 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 whoa! Let me explain. The launch was an absolute gut punch. 72 in 2 seconds was crazy insane and got me by surprise on all my 3 rides. But oh no, the ride is far from over. You got a near vertical drop after that, numerous pops of ejector into the famous flying snake dive which lives up to the height. It's a short ride, but amazing. My number 2 coaster in the park is definitely a much hotter take than Storm Runner number 1, and it is Comet. Okay, this one's going to be a tough one to explain. However, I just have one word to say. Kidding, it's ejector. I don't know who designed buzz bars in the 40s or whatever, but we need them back because these restraints are so loose you actually feel like you're about to fly out of your seat on every single hill. And trust me, there is a lot of hills. I don't care, sue me for rating Comet over Skyrush, but it's called my opinion! Anyways, let's talk about Skyrush. Even though it's my number 3 in the park, I still think Skyrush is a really good ride. I don't hate it like some people. Whoever says Skyrush's restraints don't hurt, stop lying. Like, they obviously hurt. However, I'm not gonna hate the coaster for it. My problem with it is actually the layout. Once you go over the first drop, it's turn, then hill, then turn, then hill, then turn, then hill. You get the point. I still think that the intensity of this coaster can be enjoyed in the front row, where the restraints don't hurt as much, and where there's no rattle. And trust me, there's a lot of that in the back. My point is that I don't hate it, I don't love it, but if Skyrush got new trains, it wouldn't be a number 1. Looking back at it, that seemed kind of confusing, so I'll summarize. Yes, the restraints hurt, and yes, there's a rattle, but even if you don't mind those factors, it's not a god-tier coaster. Anyways, let's move on to Kandemonium. Kandemonium is actually really underrated. Yeah, there's trims, but the only trims that hit is the ending trims, and that's the point where I don't care. People say Mako is way better than Kandemonium, when Kandemonium actually has everything Mako has and then some. The drop, the 5-second floater hill, or the 4-second floater hill. I don't know. The speed hill that actually hits hard, and an interesting ending around the chocolate fountain, including wave turn. One of my favorite B&M hypers. I also got a ride with Hersheypark Enthusiast. On to the supporting cast. Quick note, I didn't get on Lightning Racer. Jolly Rancher Remix is one of the most unique coasters I've ever been on, not just because of the smell tunnel, but also because of the theming of the mystery candy in the queue, just stuff you can't see on your computer screen. Or phone screen, I don't know. Anyways, Hershey turned a boring boomerang into a unique coaster that is bright and inviting. Fahrenheit is honestly really overrated. The drop hits hard, but the layout sucks and is over really quick. Like, I felt that Storm Runner was a longer coaster. You know what else is insanely, or should I say, greatly overrated? Well, Great Bear, my least favorite invert. I rode back row expecting a snappy terrain-based ride, but every element was really dull. The only element that was really good was the 0G roll, but not even that was all that great. Anyways, I got on Wildcat before closing, and it was alright. Really rough, but was actually pretty enjoyable because it's decently paced. I know that's unpopular, again. I beg you, sue me. Okay, that does it for coasters. Now let's move on to the... Okay, so this is where Hershey needs improvement in my opinion. I remember there being a flat ride next to Jolly Rancher Remix that looked decent, but I was too busy escaping a Karen.
Alright! Karen, what the heck? Why are you hiding in
or 3 flat rides, I guess you could say we rode, was the Hershey's Triple Tower. I'm not going to give too much detail for each tower since they all basically do the same thing, except the Hershey's Tower, the tallest one, which actually has a drop. On all the other towers, once you reach the max height of each shot, you get an insane pop of ejector. It's crazy. And of course, they're all themed at chocolate. They also have the chocolate-themed viewing tower that I didn't go on, but my mom did, and seems to give some great views of the factory and the park. Now let's move on to the... Since Hershey is a Pennsylvania theme park and can have temperatures below freezing, they can't have too deep of a water ride lineup. However, there is a decent one that I got to ride. There also looked to be a pretty tall log flume over by Great Bear, but it was in an hour-and-a-half long line, so I didn't ride it. Instead, we rode Tidal Wave, I think it's called, which had a 0-minute wave. It's got a nice steep drop and had an absolutely gigantic wave that caused one of my friends to slip after the ride and get hurt.
Tidal Wave?
It's overall a hidden gem that you guys should hit. Alright, time for... Like I've said in all my other reviews, the little things of a theme park are just as important as the coasters, and guess who excels in that department? Hersheypark. Little things include ops, theming, food, landscaping, etc. The ops at Hershey were pretty good in terms of dispatches, but I will completely praise Hershey ops because when Karen complained to an op about my storm runner POV, he did nothing. What a guy. Hershey theming is obviously good. Personally, I love the candy themes because guess who loves candy? There was actually a Chocolate World experience outside the park, but I didn't get to do that, partly because I didn't know about it for most of the day, but I will definitely try that out when I go back next summer. Instead, I went to the general store, which has so much stuff, like not just shirts and hoodies, even though there's a lot of that, but the store has gigantic Hershey Kiss pillows and edible giant Hershey Kisses, king-sized candy bar packs for cheap prices. It's huge, but that's not even the best thing. There's a sweetery with confections you've never seen before. Milton's ice cream parlor with, well, ice cream, and a sit-down restaurant called the Chocolatier, which I heard was really good, but we didn't have time for it. Inside the actual park, there is a restaurant with decently healthy options that I went to next to the Hershey's Triple Tower. The layout of Hersheypark was pretty decent. The only thing I would change is putting the Wildcat, Lightning Racer, and Laugh Track area more towards Tidal Wave and put the water park in the upper left-hand corner of the park. I kinda got lost trying to get back to the front of the park from Wildcat because it was too isolated from the rest of the park. However, I do like that everything else is in a near straight line, a very pleasant occurrence. Anyways, let's move on to the... Like I've said in the past and will continue to keep saying, is that on-site hotels are important because it's great when they're there, but it sucks when they aren't. Hersheypark does have an on-site hotel, and you might be excited by that until you realize it's $500 a night, which is why it stayed at the Courtyard in Harrisburg, which is near Hershey, which is really nice and a third of the price. Wait, that rhymed. So that'll do it for the world's sweetest park. Comment any questions you have, and I have a huge Hersheypark video in the works for the future, so look out for that. Later.